start the recording?
Yes, because Carolyn will edit out. She can edit.
Yeah, all our chit chat.
I just started it.
Yeah. Oh, it's Meg.
Oh, Meg, yeah.
Thanks, here.
Like at the theater, we'll wait just a few minutes after the hour. All right, that's the last one I will let in right now before I do some housekeeping. All right, I'm gonna do some housekeeping, and then I'll turn it over to you, Barbara and Holly.
Okay.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Tessa Killian. I'm the Executive Director at the Southeastern New York Library Resources Council, and thank you so much for joining us for today's Conservation and Preservation Grant Writing Workshop. Before starting the program, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. So you may have noticed that everyone was muted upon entering the meeting. So we prefer you to stay muted during the first part of today's program and during Barbara's presentation. We encourage you to use the chat to introduce yourself and make any other comments or questions that you have as they arise. So I've noticed that some people are already saying good morning in the chat. That's wonderful. Keep introducing yourselves and letting us know where you're joining us from today. Zoom offers automated captions. To see the captions, you click on everyone's might look a little bit different. It might be under show captions icon on your Zoom screen, or it's under the three little dots with the more icon. And then there's a caret in there and you can see more options for the captioning. So all attendees today are expected to follow Southeastern's Visitor Code of Conduct, which I will put in the chat in a second. But basically what it says is treat all staff, event attendees, and speakers respectfully, and those who do not adhere to this code of conduct will be removed from the meeting. As you may have noticed, we are recording today's program, so at some point later in the week, probably tomorrow or Monday, maybe next week, Carolyn here in my office will have a recording available of Barbara's webinar. And I'm going to be in the background throughout the meeting. So if you have any questions about any technical issues or any technical assistance, please feel free to chat me directly and I'll see if I can help you out. So now let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce Barbara Lilly and Heather Peacock, who are from
Holly.
New York State. Holly? Did I say
Yes,
Holly?
You said Heather Peacock.
Holly.
It's Holly Peacock.
I'm sorry. I had it written down right here. Holly. I know Holly. We already went over this. Barbara and Holly, who are joining us today from the Division of Library Development. And so they're presenting today's program. So with that, it's Barbara and Holly.
Good morning, everyone. I see I'm looking at all the names. Some of you are actually down the hall from me, and others of you I have spoken to on the phone before. But there's a lot of new people, which is great to see. We like to have new applicants every year. Holly and I are going to go through the process of applying for a grant, and then we'll take questions for as long as you guys want to stay on, and Southeastern lets us stay on, and hopefully get you started. I want to say right now that we are late. We're going to be late this year getting the application out. We know that because we sent the RFP to our contracts office and it's been sitting there, and we don't have it even started with them. So just be aware that it'll probably be later than usual. It's usually October, November. Who knows when it will be this year. They're very short on staff right now, so we're not sure. When it's open, we will announce it on Nyline. And I'm sure most of the 3 Hours directors will share it on their listservs, but that's where you want to look, is on Nyline. If you're not on Nyline, you can go to Library Development's webpage and the New York State Library's webpage and get signed up for Nyline there. So with that, let's get started. The New York State Program for the Conservation and Preservation of Library Research Materials is a long name. The important part here is preservation and conservation and library research materials. That's really the focus of this grant program. I gotta get my, okay. I didn't, there we go. Okay, so here's our contact information and the URL for our website. Any questions you have can be sent to Holly or I or both, which is really a good idea. Holly handles a lot of the technical part of the MWBE and pre-qualifying, and so she can help you a lot with that, whereas I really don't know as much about it. I'm the person to talk about is this project an eligible project? So sending email to both of us is always a good idea because then we can figure out who should answer the question and you don't have to do that. So we are here in library development, which is part of the New York State Library. So we're going to jump right in and talk about eligibility. If you are chartered by the Board of Regents in here in New York State, you are eligible. Or if you are accepted as a not-for-profit under Section 216 of Education Law, some of you would be registered with the Office of Charities, or you have not-for-profit status under the IRS. Those are the types of institutions that are eligible. Again, if you have any questions about eligibility of your institution, you can ask today or send me an email and we'll figure that out. Those who are not eligible are the 11, it's the 10 really, comprehensive research libraries. They already receive state funding from us. So if you are at SUNY Buffalo, Albany, Binghamton, or Stony Brook, New York Public, Columbia University, NYU, University of Rochester, or Syracuse, those institutions are basically, actually New York Public, they're branch libraries, or some of them are eligible. You're not eligible for this program because you already received funding through another way. If you are a religious organization, you are not eligible. So if you're really part of a church, if you're not sure, like you're a college, if you get Bundy aid, you are eligible. So if you can find out if you get Bundy aid, that would help us. If not, you can always check with me and we can find out if you're eligible. And then any sort of New York State agencies. We can't give a grant to another state agency, except SUNY's and CUNY's, except the 4 main ones. You are eligible. So it's a little confusing at times of who is or who isn't eligible. So the types of things that we fund are personnel costs, service and consultant contracts, supplies and equipment for project activities or other activities. We don't fund the salaries for full-time staff, parts of their salaries. We do not fund that. But we do fund hiring of, say, hiring someone to help with a project. So if you were doing a rehousing project and you wanted to hire someone temporarily part-time, we would fund that cost. We also would fund any service or consultant contracts. So if you were hiring someone to reformat your photographs, that is fundable. Most consultant things now, very few of them we contract because we have something called DHPSNY, dhpsny.org, and you can find links to that on our website. And that is a program that does general preservation surveys. They do archival surveys. They do other types of surveys, and we also have a lot of workshops offered through them. But supplies and equipment for project activities, we do generally fund things like rehousing, acid-free folders, boxes, things like that. So again, if you have any questions about something that you want to ask about getting funded for and you're not sure, please check with me before you apply. We do want you to have a successful proposal. So the list of unfunded is always ineligible is longer. So general operating expenses, indirect costs, or overhead charges, we do not fund. So we do not generally require, we have a small match. It's very tiny, and it usually your own time that you put into the project covers it. So that's why we don't fund any sort of overhead indirect costs. Acquisitions of library materials, capital expenditures for building constructions or modification. The one thing that we do fund is if you are want to create a special collections room, storage room, not office space, but storage room for your collections, and you want to have a separate HVAC system for that room, we do fund that. You would need to first apply to us to hire a consultant to do the work to help you analyze the conditions in which the materials are currently stored and what would be the best HVAC system to meet the standards for storing your collections. Um, if you were looking for folks who can help you with that, a consultant, I can help you get names for that. We don't want you to just go to your local HVAC company and put an air conditioner. That will not work for storing your collections. So if you're thinking of a project like that, please give me a call. Standard library shelving, we don't fund. If, however, you were to fund a large amount, I'm sorry, if you were to do a project where you're rehousing a large amounts of maps or other large format things, and you're having them say mended, repaired, and rehoused, and you need more map cases, we would fund the purchase of the map cases. If you were putting things in large boxes and you needed oversized shelving for that collection, we would fund that. Physical processing, we don't fund. If you're interested in projects like that, I would send you to the New York State Archives and the Documentary Heritage Program to look into their grants. Basic disaster planning, we do not fund. DIPSNY, the program offers a lot of, they've done workshops on disaster response, and they have a whole slew of webinars that are available to you for free as well. Microfilm readers, computer equipment, a lot of basic stuff like that. And we don't pay, sometimes people ask me about getting a fireproof safe. We don't fund those. Those are not really a preservation measure. So again, if you have any questions, you just give me a call. Let's see. Fundable activities include item level surveys. We don't, so now if you have a specific collection that you want more look at, so say you have a large photograph collection, you can now apply to the DIPSNY program to have a photograph conservator come in and help you identify the types of photographs you have, their condition, and then and then how to reformat those. If you get a preservation survey with them, we are working to start to offer some preservation planning, to create a preservation plan for you as well. So that's something we're working on with them to start offering, because it's great to have a survey. It tells you lots of information, but it doesn't always help you to sort of figure out what's your first step, what's your second step, and how to sort of go set up a plan to address all your preservation needs. So we like you to try to work with that. So a lot of the sort of planning and screening, we've moved to the DIPSNY program. They have openings 3 or 4 times a year for applying for those types of projects. So it's much more often, which it used to be when we did it was once a year. So you had to wait a long time, and you hear back from them a lot faster than you do when you apply for a grant from us. So it works a little better. And then they have a consultant who comes out and meets with you and, comes on site and creates a written report for you. So again, I strongly urge you to check out that website as well and all of their webinars. We actually have a DIPSNY YouTube channel. You can see, and they're on all the different social media platforms as well with they do some preservation tips and, and let you know when these different applications are opening up or when the workshops are being scheduled for. So I mentioned before, environmental controls, upgrading the mechanical HVAC, and this is really important. We don't fund window air conditioners. We don't fund dehumidifiers. It's really if you're creating a good storage space for your collections with a steady temperature and humidity, not something that can be turned off or is meant to provide human comfort. So we would pay for a new HVAC system for your entire building, because that would not work for the collections, and staff wouldn't want to work in a place that's cool enough for your collections. And having working in a cold office, we really get it. Our office is very cold. We're all bundled up. So there really should be the special collection should be stored separately, not where staff are working. Special shelving or storage furnishings, like I mentioned, stopgap measures we don't fund, like air conditioners, dehumidifiers, or standard library shelving, things like that, we don't fund. This is really meant for the long-term preservation of your collections. So we do fund preservation quality microfilm and microfiche and color microfilm. There are only a few vendors that exist now who create preservation quality microfilm. If you need their information, I can send it to you. We don't create a list on our website because it becomes very almost political. So we don't do that. We don't fund microform readers or printers. We don't fund scanning, and we don't fund the purchase of scanners. That's an access project. It is not a preservation project. So we do fund photograph negative duplication. So if you have glass plate negatives or regular negatives, or if you have acetate negatives that are very unstable, you can have what we call an interpositive, a duplicate negative, and then a print made from those. We do fund the reformatting of sound recordings, and we do now allow those to be digitized because it's very hard to get reel-to-reel tape anymore. So we have allowed that, and there's some information in the application about what the standards are you have to meet for those sound recordings, and you do have to send us a hard drive so we can load them into our dark archive here. Sometimes we've funded photocopying. We rarely get those anymore. Anything that most people would have photocopied in the past, they now digitize and put up on their website. But we don't fund digitization generally. We don't fund videotapes, taping those or digitizing them, cassette tapes, and most photocopying we don't fund. Some people want to photocopy like their entire archive, and that's just not sustainable and not something we would really encourage. Other things, if you have a large collection that needs cleaning, a lot of times people have a lot of rolled up maps or architectural drawings and things. They've been rolled up for a long time. They're torn, they're dirty, and they need to be cleaned, mended, and put into protective enclosures, or you have books that need minor repairs or maybe even major conservation treatment. We fund that. You would need to get two bids from a qualified conservator to do the work, and include both of those bids in your application. And you would need to tell us who you chose and why. You do not have to choose the lowest bid. We want you to choose the most qualified person for your collection. You may have to have your collection travel for this because there aren't conservators everywhere, but there are places you can go and get good conservation treatment. And then we don't include basic housekeeping, such as cleaning your shelves, physical processing, or learn by doing projects. We're not going to pay for a conservator to come and train your staff. We have DIPSNY offers all kinds of workshops about care and handling and housing of collections. If you're applying for a project to do some big project, I would highly recommend you look at some of those videos first so you get an idea of what that's involved. Because I'm sure many of you have never done any kind of preservation project before, and it can be kind of daunting to really understand the terms and what people are going to do. But again, if you're looking for a conservator, if you have questions, please call me. We're looking for, when we get to physical treatment, it can be very expensive, and we're looking for collections that have research value. So things that are mass produced and need a little repair are not things that we're interested in funding. We're really looking at things that are rare and unique. So if you're not sure, a good thing to do is just search OCLC and see who else has copies of these materials to see. Okay. Fundable activities include bibliographic activities. This is limited to 10% of the grant award. You may, as part of the project, want to do more intellectual control of your collection. You may want to add some information to your catalog, but this is really just to sort of put notes in about the preservation activities. If it's a microfilming project, you want to include the 583 field. Um, but that's kind of, it has to be part of the project. You may, if you're doing a rehousing project, lots of times people will hire someone and ask us to pay for part of the project as they rehouse. They're also creating some kind of finding aid or catalog of that collection. And they can do both at the same time. It's just that we can't pay for the whole thing. Other fundable activities include disaster recovery. Um, Research would be into preservation topics. We don't usually get many of those anymore. Specialized training, if there was some sort of specialized training that wasn't being offered by DIPSNY, we would be open to funding that. You would have to open it up to anyone who wants to come. So it can't just be for your staff. Preservation information materials, we don't really fund too much of that anymore. There's so much out there. If you're looking for stuff, I would look at a Northeast Document Conservation Center's website, our DIPSNY site. DIPSNY is run out of the Conservation Center for Art and Historic Artifacts in Philadelphia, CCAHA. They're both nice acronyms that you can't pronounce, but it's CCAH, I can't say it, .org and nedcc.org. We don't fund preparing of disaster plans. That's something that you should be doing yourself. It's a learning experience and it's really important. Purchasing of emergency supplies, exhibitions, and guides or catalogs to your collection. So exhibitions, we do not fund, say, for example, if you have materials that you want to treat, that's good. We don't fund like the framing and getting it all ready for exhibition. We actually kind of discourage that because of the possibility of too high light levels on the materials when they're exhibited. So not something, sometimes people have those very large county maps and they want to have them treated. I would suggest if you do that to have some kind of almost like curtain over it so that it's not being exposed to light when no one's looking at it. Okay, pre-qualification requirement. I am going to hand over to Holly.
Good morning, everybody. So in order for not-for-profits to receive money from the state, there is a pre-qualification requirement. This is separate from the grant application, but it must be done by the application deadline in order for us to be able to review your application. There are some exemptions. Government agencies are exempt, SUNYs and CUNYs, public libraries. In the past, association libraries have been subject to pre-qualification, but with some conversations we've had this year, we feel that is no longer the case. That's what we're being told. I would suggest, though, if you are an association library and you, are planning to apply, once the applications are open, just shoot us an email and let us know. So we can, get actual verification on that you won't be subject to it. So there's no surprises come the application deadline time. We do recommend that you start early so that, because it can take several weeks. So I would say as soon as you know you're going to apply, whether the applications are actually open or not, you can go ahead and start that process. And then lastly, if you've pre-qualified in the past, there are certain documents that have to be submitted yearly. I believe that goes based upon the expiration date of your IRS 990 form. And you just go in and to the SFS system. It's recently moved from the Grants Gateway to SFS, which is the statewide financial system. So you would go in there and upload the documents for renewal, and the system will tell you, what it is that they need. Okay, so the grants management website has different resources that are available to assist you in both the registration and pre-qualification process. So there's actually 2 steps. You have to register for SFS first. Some people, if you've gotten money from the state, if you have a vendor ID, you are registered in SFS, but not necessarily for the grants portion. So there is a form that you will fill out specifically to get access for the grants portion. And then after that, you will begin the pre-qualification process. There are vendor support calls that are being held weekly to discuss any questions and how to use the system. So these are some upcoming dates. We'll just quickly try to go to the website here. Okay. So when you go to the website, you can register, you can get pre-qualified. Okay. So there's all the instructions. It's pretty simple. There's a form that you fill out and you submit to the grants gateway, or excuse me, grants management. Still have to change my terminology here. If you do not have a vendor ID, you will want to complete the W-9 form as well, and they will assign a vendor ID to you. And then getting pre-qualified. So to get pre-qualified, there are questions. There's a form they're going to have you fill out, and then there's also these additional documents that need to be uploaded. Okay. There is a pre-qualification manual, right, that has a lot of helpful information in it. It actually goes through each question of the application and tells you what it is they're actually looking for, and how to, answer each question. So you have the application itself. Okay.
Holly,
Yes.
we see this Barbara's slides. If you want to do you want to show the website? You have to stop sharing Barbara's presentation or switch the slides.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, we'll go back
It's
to
okay.
the
I wasn't sure
slides.
how long you were going to stay on that, so I thought I'd mention it.
Yes, that's good to know.
Um,
We'll have to do that.
Okay, so then let me just go to the next slide. Before I do that, there is a help desk. So there's an email and, toll free and regular phone number to call for assistance. Okay, so we talked about the registration form, the pre-qualification.
And Tessa, when this gets loaded, will these, so Holly has sort of live links here. Will those stay in place so people can click on those? Do you know?
Only if we send the power.
Send me the PowerPoint.
Okay, we'll send you the PowerPoint. I wasn't sure what the, how the
And
recording.
we'll send them with the people who we'll send it out with the people to the people who registered.
Great, thank
and
you.
they'll have
That's
that.
perfect. Yeah, so they can see all this. This stuff is, I'm sorry you can't see it, but it's really helpful.
Okay.
We can see your slideshow, but just not.
Yeah.
So once you complete your pre-qualification application and upload all the documents, a pre-qualification specialist will review, they'll make your determination, the notification will be sent to you via email. And so just make sure the contact info, especially if you already had an SFS account, make sure that contact info is up to date. If you have, pre-qualification questions as you're, completing the application, you can send to prequal@NYSED.gov. And that goes to our one of the pre-qualification specialists within NYSED to help answer your questions. And I will hand it back to Barbara to start talking about the application itself.
Okay, so now we're going to go in step by step through the application. There is on our website last year's application to look at if you want to see the process there. You will need to get into the application for this next year. You need a username and password. This is an online application. And so you would go to the line on the bottom, this e-services grants registration, and you would .do. And you would, and this is on our webpage, you would then get a username and password for this. And then to get into the application itself, you're going to go to the link at the top where it says LD grants there on the end, and that will take you right into our application portal. So everything you send us except for the FS10 forms is done online, and we'll go through all of that next.
And the payee form.
And the payee form, yes. Okay, so this is, again, like Holly mentioned, you want to start this process early. You can do it now, even though we don't have the application up. And when you sign up for a username and password, it is for your institution. It is linked to your institution in our system. So if you have one from a previous place of employment, if you try to log in, you're going to get it won't work for you. So if you've changed, send Holly an email, and she'll work you through we'll get you registered for your current place of employment. It happens every now and then. People go, I logged in, but I'm still getting my old job stuff. And it's like, yeah, because you're linked to your institution. Here we go. So this is what you're going to see on our web page when you get in here. And so you'll see all these different links to the things that you need to do. Sorry, did I miss
You're
one?
scrolling. It's changing the slides because you were scrolling.
Oh, I did not.
Just go forward.
Yeah. So, so obviously it says the 24-25. That's last year's. So, and you can see the due date was in 2024. But that's where you'll see the information too. You can link on, and you can check there too if you're wondering if it's open yet. But that's sort of the first thing you're gonna start. You'll see from our website, and then again, these links, and there's the MWBE requirement, which Holly's going to talk about today too, which is the Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprises Participation Goals. And this is a statewide for all state grants, a requirement. Let's see, the next one. Okay. So when you get in to do your online grant account, this is the stuff you're going to fill out. It has to be your work email, your work address. We don't want personal addresses. We need your institution's name, and that is your legal name of your institution. Because we're going to be linking that to your institution, and your institution may already be in our system. We just have to make sure that they all match up. So then if you're a library and archive, part of a bigger institution, you can put the name of the library there. So if you're part of, say, an academic institution, you would put the name of the college and then the library archive name. This other information you're going to put in here, and you're going to give us all the stuff, your federal ID, your school district, your county that you're located in. And then you're going to tell us what kind of access you want. The only ones who get submit access are the director of the library or a board president, basically. You can have other staff get usernames and passwords, and they can do some reading and editing. But the person who submits must be the person who is authorized to submit for your organization. Um, so that's why we're asking for your title and all these things, because we do not want to get an application submitted by a clerk or whatever. It has to be someone who's authorized to do this. And here's a lovely login page, if they haven't changed it.
No, it still looks like that.
Yeah. And you're just going to put your username and password in and sign in. It's pretty straightforward. If you forgot your username or passwords, there's those handy links that we're all very familiar with now because we all have so many usernames and passwords we have to know. And it's right there. And you go log in.
Actually,
Can I go back?
Can you go back just for a second?
Okay.
I just want to give a helpful little tip to go, directly use the URL. Don't bookmark it.
Oh, yeah.
Because the system gets easily confused, especially if you have multiple ny.gov logins. Don't just go to my.ny.gov. You won't get into the portal. Use the URL. You can create a shortcut. Just don't bookmark it.
Yeah.
And then that will definitely, help you out.
Yeah. We have the same problem here. So you're going to choose a grant program. You may have, especially if you're a public library, this is the same portal you use for the public library construction program. If you're a local government, they also use this system for the Elgamus grants. So it may look slightly familiar to you. These are obviously old slides, but this is kind of what it looks like. And you're just going to click on that and start. So you're going to see up in the upper left-hand corner the guidelines as a Word document. And so you can download that or print it out, whatever you want to do. And then you will see past applications or cooperating. We have some people do cooperative projects. And then you want to click on the link to the new app to create a new application. If you've had grants in the past and you're not aware, hopefully you'll see them here. Sometimes people don't realize that because it happened, say, 10 years ago. They didn't know that. But so here's sort of the navigation bar that takes you through all the sections of your application. There are two things you're going to do in here. You're going to apply and you're going to file your final report. So there is a final report that's due. So if you are successful in your application, the first thing you want to do is to find out what you need to have for your final report. So when it comes time to do the final report, you have all the information that you need. Sometimes people start to panic about that, but it's pretty straightforward. And we'll go through that. We also give you this nice checklist of all the things you need to do, and you can navigate around through this as well, as you can see. The information here, there's information about the pre-qualification. There's a link about the MWBE, and you're going to click here. If you're buying supplies or hiring a consultant or a conservator, chances are you're going to have very little luck finding vendors or consultants on the MWBE list. So you're going to have to ask for a waiver. And if you need help with the language for the waiver, Holly is on call to help you with that. She's become very good at knowing how to fill those out. And that's pretty common. The state they're looking for, is it 30 or 35%? Do you remember what our participation is? 30%. Okay. But it's hard. There are a few vendors that do qualify under MWBE for preservation, but very few. And it has to be the New York State list. There are lots of MWBE lists in the state. There's county ones, city ones. It has to be the New York State MWBE list. It's a pain. And here's your final report checklist. So you're going to give us a final report narrative telling us what you did. You're going to do a final report with the budget expenses. You're going to sign off on this project, and then you're going to when you fill out the budget, it will fill out the FS10F forms for you. You're going to print up 3 and sign them all in blue ink and mail them back to Holly. If at some point in your project you need to make a change, please call me first, and make sure that that change is okay. Even if it's a vendor or an expense that you weren't, or maybe you're spending less money and you're wondering, how can I spend the rest of my grant? Any of those things that come up, please call me first, and then we'll help you through, if it's approvable, we'll help you through the FS10A form, which is an amendment to your project. The project is paid out 90/10. So if your project is awarded and you send in your FS10 forms, when that happens, you'll get paid 90% of the project costs up front. The final 10% will come when your final report is approved. We have all kinds of different things down here on the bottom. Once the projects are awarded, the reviewers also review. We have 2 outside reviewers and myself who review every application. Their comments and scores will become available for you to see. So I highly suggest, even if you're a successful grant applicant, that you look at those and see if there's places where you could have improved on your application. If you didn't get the award, you should definitely look at those and see why you didn't get the award. And perhaps it's something that we can discuss so that you can apply again the next year. And then you can save and print all these different sections. I highly recommend that you save or print up your application and keep it somewhere in your institution as well. You never know. So there's a cover sheet. So when you log in to start your application, this is going to be filled out for you ahead of time, because we're taking all of this from what we call SEDREF, which is our database where we keep everything. Talk faster. It's like slide 33. So that's why when we say your application is attached to your username and password is attached to your institution. If there's something that's not right here, that means you need to update your information, and you need to, there we go, just what I said. You need to contact Holly, and she may be able to just make that change from her computer, or we may need some paperwork for you. Again, you're going to tell us, do you believe you're eligible and why? Pretty straightforward. The project manager information you will have to enter yourself. This is the person who's going to be involved in the day-to-day aspects of the project. So I always like to say, if I have a question during the course of the project and I need to call you, this is the person that I would call who could answer my questions. So it might not be the director of the library. It might be somebody else who's actually the day-to-day manager. And so I need your phone number, your name, title, phone number, and of course, email. And then you need to give your project a little title. We do create press releases from this stuff. It also helps me to, when I'm assigning the outside reviewers, I'm trying to match people up who I think would be most appropriate to review your application. You will write this brief summary, which I use to assign your reviewers. So be very specific about the preservation project itself, not the whole thing about your institution and so forth, but what are you actually going to be doing in this project? That's the most important thing I need when I first glance. And then you want to keep saving as you go through. Make sure you have that. Then you're going to start the narratives. And you're going to tell us about the size of your institution. If you're part of a larger organization, briefly describe that. But then really what we want to know about is the library or the special collection or the history room collection, whatever it is. That's what we want to hear the most about. This allows you to navigate on the left here. You can navigate between the different sections of the application. You can, there's a bar up there, as you see, an edit bar, so you can do a lot of things. You can also cut and paste, and you see on the, I think I get a link to this. Yeah, you type in here, save it, and then you can also upload down there on the bottom. You can upload So if you have, and you can copy and paste things. So if you've written some of this stuff in Word, you can copy and paste it right into the application. I believe you can copy and paste from your previous applications too. You know, some of this introductory stuff may not have changed that much. So descriptions of the agency, again, my reviewers are not going to know you. They're not going to be familiar with your organization. They're looking at what is the size of this organization, what is their capacity and ability to do a project. We also have a wide variety of people applying, organizations from very large to very small. So we kind of want a sense of, what is reasonable for you guys to do. I might have higher expectations for the Met than I would for you. So you're going to tell us about the agency's quantity of materials, the types of materials, your collecting policy, and other information about the actual collection. So again, start from the top and then really focus on the other, the part of the collection you're interested in for this project. Your institutional commitment to preservation, what other preservation activities you've ever done. Do you have a long-range plan? Have you had a survey before? You can include the survey as an attachment. If you spent any money on preservation in the past. Oh, it's Natalie. Sorry, we forgot we have another webinar coming up at 11 here. So I didn't give enough space between these. Institutional, again, extent of any environmental controls that you have, and if you have heat, if you have air conditioning, are good to know. Anything else you have, any possible plans for improvement. Do you have a written disaster plan? If you do, you can attach it. If you've created disaster supply cabinets or whatever, great stuff to include. Security. What is your security for your collections? Again, the collections you're applying for. The thing that people leave out the most is security from their own staff. We talk about a lot about security from users, but a lot of theft and comes from staff. So how do you make sure that your collections aren't being damaged or stolen? Pretty straightforward. Institutional commitment to preservation. Again, this goes back to the size of your institution. Don't expect you to have a lot. If you're a smaller organization, bigger ones do. If you're part, again, all of these things are things you want to address in this part of your application. And please keep your comments specific to these sections because that's how they're reviewed. We want to see that the collections are accessible to the public. We know that not everything can leave your building, but we need to see that you have hours, number of patrons. That can be those on site, or they can be people who come to you electronically or over the phone. Again, do you have some kind of cataloging? Do you have a web page? Do you have, bibliographic records? Do you have finding aids? All of those things can be addressed in this section. You must own the collection. If you're going to work on a collection that you don't own, there's a cooperative agreement form, and that institution has to agree to it. It also has to be a public institution that people are going to forever have access to them. They cannot be privately owned. Research value of the materials. Here we want to get very, very specific about the collection. What's the subject area, the format of it, quantity of it, age and condition of it, and the type of research for which materials are likely to be used. So this should be very as specific as you can be here. Go into great detail. And then relevance to the institution's collections. It's value to researchers. We are not particularly interested in artifactual value unless it's something super rare. We really want to know about the research value. We don't care about how much it's worth dollar. That's not what we're interested in. If you've had it appraised, it's not important to us. Your plan of work, again, should be very detailed. It should be, how beginning and ending date and a sort of week by week as you go through. Sometimes it takes a little while to get started. Of course, when you get your grant award, I would not count on having a full 12 months for your project. I would count on, because we'll probably be late making awards, I would count on a 10-month project at the most. That's what I would plan for. If you're hiring contractors or consultants or a conservator, when are they coming on? What are the staff going to be doing? Anything else a part of the project? Plan of work should be very detailed. If you've got bids from a conservator, include those. If you have bids from someone who's going to reformat in any way, those should be included. Again, 2 bids, who you're choosing and why. And again, very specific. And then there should be very specific plans and cost estimate for that part of the project. You need a project manager, project personnel who are going to be, anyone's going to be hired. If you don't know, you're going to hire someone temporarily, like a library aide or something, just include a job description. Existing staff to be used who are going to work, any consultants or vendors, and their qualifications, such as a resume. How much staff time will you be contributing to the project goes in here. You can outline who's going to spend how much time doing what, and what that financial contribution actually is. And then all of these things that I've mentioned should be attached. And the attachment process is pretty simple on how you can do this in the application and adding documents. If you want to have before pictures, before treatment, and then in your final report include after treatment pictures, that would be great. The budget is pretty straightforward. It's going to ask you to direct the collections on learning this. You're going to go in there in each of these sections, personnel services, employee benefits, contracted services, and add them. The amounts in. It's going to do some of the math for you, but you can see here how it works. If you again have questions about this, give us a call, but it's pretty straightforward. It's going to do a lot of calculations for you for each of these different parts of the activity. Again, as specific as possible. You're going to print and sign the form, and then you're going to re-upload it to the application. You're going to be saving as you go through, and then you're going to hit your submit button. You don't get a message back from us, I'm afraid, but you do get this. Oh, you can't get one. Maybe you can. Let's submit that. Yes. Oh, this is just confirming. Yeah. You don't get a kind of confirmation back from us.
You get an acknowledgement.
Oh, you do?
You get an acknowledgement.
After people say they didn't get one. Yeah.
An application.
FS10 forms are the forms we use to pay you. This will be all pre-filled for you. Go through and make sure it's correct. You're going to print out 3 copies and sign them. The important thing to know here is this back page where you do the signature. First of all, don't change the format. Only use the ones that print out from here. Don't take an FS10 from somewhere else. We won't accept it. Up on the top, you're going to see your agency code. Oops, that is very top there in the upper right corner is your agency code. That's a unique number for you. The project number is the program, the year, and your unique number. This is important because if you get a grant from us and you get a payment from state comptroller's office, this number will be on that payment as the invoice number. And that's how you know it's your, it's for this project. This is the payee form. Do you want to just briefly?
Sure. So the payee form needs to be submitted with each application. You will actually mail this in with your FS10s. So you will just complete this. If you already have, gotten payments from us, we still need this, but you'll just put in your legal name, your FEIN, your vendor ID. SAM is, you don't have to worry about SAM. If you have it, you can fill it out. If you don't, that's only for federal grants. And then you'll check off what type of institution you are and the CAO signs it and, send in the original copy with your FS10s. And now we're to MWBE. So I will quickly go through this. As Barbara already mentioned, we have a MWBE requirement only if you're above 25,000 that you're applying for. And the biggest thing to know on this is that you can apply for a waiver if you don't have if you can't find a vendor. If you have you can either apply for a full waiver or a partial waiver. So if you have supplies that you can order from a vendor who's in the directory, that's fine. And then those are the required documents. You can contact me if you have more questions on it.
Yeah. So this just takes you through some of the things you can see of the final reports. You can also see, you can also look for general reports over here, and you can see projects that were similar to yours in the past. So you can put in a subject and just flick through and see who else has applied for similar types of projects, and maybe you want to talk to the project manager from them. Oh, that is the end of our slideshow. Sorry. So quickly, we're going to go through some questions. I'm sorry we're rushing you at the end, but we're like apparently booked up here today.
She's putting her in another spot.
Oh, she's putting in another spot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Oh, good. I'll slow down. So the college grants office cannot be the final applicant to send this. You can write it, but the director has to sign off on this. Because what we find is often the college grants office pulls out forms that are not correct. And so they really have to come from the library itself. We want these to come from. We've had some crazy stuff come. I'm sorry, but let me see. Oh, Tessa's putting in nice links. I thought I saw more up here. All right, no,
just people introducing themselves.
Okay, similar. Can the grants office? Yeah, registrars and grants coordinators cannot be the final sign off on the projects. We want the executive director, but you can have two people on there, and both of you can be reading and writing. Only one person has submit though, and that has to be the head of the library or whatever. So, do we have any other? Can we unmute or people raise their hands if they have questions? Can we see raised hands here?
At this point, people can raise their hands or unmute and ask a question.
Okay. I was going to go back to our first page. I usually go back to the first page. So
Meg, looks like Meg. I see Meg has her hand raised. Meg has a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Meg.
Barbara and Holly.
Morning.
So I don't know if you can answer this or what you think of this, but my office gives grants to people who would be eligible for these CP grants also. And the ideal thing that I try to do is to coordinate what I fund with what you fund. So I will fund the access part, like my preference is to fund access activities. And sometimes an applicant has a project that includes both. Like they have CP elements and they're going to do some access stuff, like whether it's digitization or some processing stuff. Like, is there anything off the top of your head that you would recommend to help me or help these members? Sorry, Sarah, I'm at the Northern New York Library Network. I'm a 3 R's Library Council. So
if you, I would suggest then that, well, you can do it two ways. They can get a grant from you and then apply to us. There's nothing to stop them as long as it's clear who's funding what. It's just, I think, timing of it all becomes a little difficult. So I can't guarantee you anything as far as being funded, but if say they got an award from us and they find out in July and you want to fund the access part in the next fiscal year for you, that would be fine. And they can say that. If I just don't know what your grant cycle is either.
Right.
So that's the hard part.
Is there anything in your application process that becomes stronger for member? Like, can a member make a
Yeah,
stronger
there's
application by saying we have some other funding that
it's going
will,
to increase the access. Yes, that would help. That's
yeah.
definitely good. Good, strong research collection, good project. Letters of recommendation from scholars are great. Letters
Mm.
of recommendation from legislators are not useful.
Mhm.
Some people have asked me if I get my legislator. No, it doesn't matter because anybody can get that letter. But showing past use of the collection, some people send me lists of everyone who's used their collection in the last year or so for what reasons, or scholars writing letters. Those are great. We like those, you know. So,
Barbara, you have one more follow-up question about who can
I
sign.
see that. Can the director's boss, associate, yes, the associate vice president could do that, could submit. Yeah. Any other questions? I don't, we can't see the hand raising on our screen, so.
I don't see any, right. Oh, you can't, I don't see anybody else has a hand raised.
Okay, okay.
I
All
don't
right.
see any more questions in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, I don't either. So really what I strongly, if you're going to apply, give me a call. If you're thinking of applying, before you start doing a lot of work, give me a call and talk about the project. That's the thing I can say the strongest. We have a website with lots of information. Check out the DIPSNY information, and go from there is really what I recommend, the way you get started. So thank you all for coming today. I hope this is useful. We do it about once a year, and it will be up on Southeastern's, oops, new
Yes,
message.
we will process the video, and we will, if you send me your slides, we will also post those so people have the links.
Okay.
I don't know if I see any more questions. I see lots of thank yous.
Okay, great.
So I will say thank you so much, Barbara and Holly, for today's presentation.
Thank you for hosting.
I learned a lot about the grant as well, and we had about 33 people here, so we'll make sure that we get this out and you get a wider audience for your presentation. So thank you very much.
All right.
And everyone have a great day.
Yeah, have a great day, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.